This is a perspective of a huge Zelda fan who didn't really like Breath of the Wild. Yes, there's still some people out there who didn't really like Breath of the Wild. We are a rare breed seeing how quickly it became one of the best selling Zelda games to date. I know. But I want to make things clear from the beginning. I don't hate Breath of the Wild, nor do I think it's a bad game at all. I will explain my perspective with the game shortly, but even despite that, I am still very much looking forward to Tears of the Kingdom. I think this will be one of the best games on the system and I have high hopes for the game. So to get you my experience real quick, I didn't grow up playing Zelda. My first ever Zelda was probably the Brawl demo for Zelda 1, and then I tried to beat it on 3DS and failed miserably. Even though I had a Super Nintendo, a Wii and other consoles, it always slipped my grasps. My first real Zelda playthrough began with Ocarina of Time 3D on 3DS. So technically I had the same first experience as many others, but it was not on N64. The game grabbed me instantly and changed what I like about games forever. After that, I have caught up to every single Zelda game out there. Phantom Hourglass, Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures, Link's Crossbow Training, Wand of Gamelon, you name it. This franchise quickly grew to be one of my favorite franchises of all time in the span of a few years. Not because of Wand of Gamelon though, I will tell you that much. My first time being caught up to date and waiting for a new Zelda release was for Skyward Sword in 2011. And it didn't disappoint me at all, it is still one of my favorites today. It had everything I loved about the franchise. The characters felt more fleshed out, the story was great and the music was excellent as ever. But what was even more important, the dungeons were incredible. But it was at this point that the Zelda team and the Zelda community as a whole, playing these games for the past 25 years, started to feel worn out by what the Zelda franchise was. A change was in the air that me as a new fan couldn't see coming. The so-called Zelda Formula was starting to get tiring to old school fans. They felt like they have been playing remakes Ocarina of Time for years now and the sales were showing that. The interest in Zelda was on a downward spiral after Twilight Princess. For me, who literally played all these amazing games back to back mind you, I never felt for a second that the games would be too similar to each other. Each game has a unique mechanic that never returned for other games. In Twilight Princess, you can transform into a wolf. In Wind Waker, you were sailing by boat throughout the entire game. Minish Cap made you small like an ant, opening up so many more puzzles. Oracle of Seasons had you change seasons for puzzles and so forth. You get the idea. One thing was always the same though. Link wakes up from a bad dream, he must go save someone or something. He enters a dungeon, gets an item, beats the dungeon, moves on to another dungeon. In between dungeons was exploring Hyrule or any other place, which made each game stand out. But this is the so-called Zelda Formula that people grew tired of. The change was imminent, and the first game to show us that the Zelda team was taking the necessary steps released in November of 2013. A Link Between Worlds started as a Link to the Past remake, but quickly changed into a new game. Merging into the walls as a 2D painting would change puzzles and gameplay dramatically. This was the new twist for the game. But something else was also worked on. Something to shake up that Zelda formula everyone was getting tired of. Now you can get almost every item you want directly at the beginning of your adventure. The dungeons can be done in any order you want. No more entering a dungeon, getting the item, then finishing the dungeon with said item. Now the dungeons were all focused on a specific item you can buy in a shop. This allows you to complete the dungeons in any order you want. But this also means the dungeons have to account for the fact that you can indeed only have that single item that is required. This nerfed dungeon puzzles drastically. In the old games you get progressively more items, which means later dungeons can get way more creative with the items you have at that point. I have to say that looking back now at the game, it still has some amazing puzzles thanks to the 2D painting transformation, and overall the game still feels good to play. A Link Between Worlds had overall positive reviews. Back then, I wasn't happy about the change to the dungeons. I had no idea that this was only the beginning, something to test the waters for what's to come. Enter a new era. The Zelda team took a huge risk. This was about to be the greatest Zelda they have ever created. A massive open world, an intricate physics engine, and most importantly, a huge shakeup to the Zelda formula everyone grew so tired of. The hype surrounding the game grew from trailer to trailer, and when it finally released on the promised amazing console named Wii U in 2017, it shook the entire world. Oh, and it also released on the new hardware back then, a little thing called the Nintendo Switch. Breath of the Wild was a monumental step in gaming history. Players all around the world were able to experience this unrestricted, huge open world with so many possible actions and nothing holding your hand. A game that embodies freedom like no other. You want to beat the boss after just leaving the tutorial area? Go ahead. You want to explore the world? Or do you want to fight that very dangerous looking minotaur that stares at you menacingly even though you are only equipped with a stick and no pants? Try it. The game got a ton of positive reviews and is now considered to be one of the best games ever made. It not only pleased most of its Zelda fans, it brought in so many new players that never played Zelda in the first place. This game cemented itself as one of the modern masterpieces that everyone has to experience at least once. But under the massive waves of positivity the game received, you could hear some faint voices of people complaining about it. Everyone has their own story and experience with the Zelda franchise. Everyone likes different things about it. If this game is everything you ever wanted, I'm happy for you. But in the quest to shake up what so many people grew tired of, and in their quest to make this game the freest it could ever be, sacrifices had to be made. Dungeons were the biggest sacrifice. Replaced with 120 shrines, of which only 71 of them actually contained puzzles, with the other ones being shrines of blessings or tests of strengths. The 71 puzzle shrines felt more like mobile game dungeons, and most of them can't even be cheese to skip the puzzles entirely. Also, I don't know if you can call some of these solutions puzzles to begin with. The rewards for completing them are a few treasure chests with weapons you can get everywhere else as well, and an orb to expand your health and stamina. The 4 big boy dungeons this time around were the Divine Beasts, all of them having the same objective: find 4 terminals, go to the boss. That's it. The Divine Beasts are also fully open world in the sense that you can do whatever you want in whatever order you want. They are also fully cheesable, and there's no real drive to get every treasure chest as well. If dungeons were your least favorite part about Zelda, this must be like Christmas to you. Remember I said A Link Between Worlds gave you the items from the beginning, making every puzzle only rely on a single item? Well, Breath of the Wild gives you 4 at least, but that's even less than the total items in A Link Between Worlds. Every puzzle either needs you to use stasis, magnesis, cryonis or bombs, and most of the time it still only requires one of those 4. I am not a fan of the dungeons in Breath of the Wild. Hey, maybe this is just me and me alone, but dungeons were one of the reasons I became a Zelda fan in the first place. People say Breath of the Wild leans more towards being like Zelda 1 on the NES, but that is not true at all. The game basically invented the Zelda formula. The overworld plays a big part, yes, but the 9 main dungeons were still the main objective and the meat of the game. Also, the items you get in these dungeons. I see the point of the overworld being more open and interactable, but that's where the comparisons end. Just give me one more second and we will get into the positive stuff, I promise. But something else that took a big sacrifice for this game are the unique bosses, the story that is non-relevant to the current time, the many unique items you get, and the overworld music. I know this will open a whole other wormhole, because so many people swear by the fact that the game couldn't work without traditional music in the overworld, even though you only have to look at other games like Xenoblade X or other games in the franchise handling it perfectly fine. But I want to stop right here. Enough negativity. Let's get into why I'm super excited about Tears of the Kingdom. I want to make sure that we are still on the same page here. I don't hate Breath of the Wild in the slightest. I've put over 400 hours in this game and can probably beat most people in a Hyrule Guesser game. I love exploring the overworld and all the fun stuff you can do in Breath of the Wild. I don't want the open world to disappear at all. Breath of the Wild just does not focus on the things I love about the franchise. That's all. And if you love this game more than every other Zelda game combined, that is very valid and understandable, especially if you are not a fan of dungeons. Tears of the Kingdom was in development for over 5 years now, almost the same time it took them to create the entire Hyrule open world we will be using again, plus the physics engine with every interaction. I have no doubt in my mind that this game will almost be 3 times as big as Breath of the Wild was. Just imagine that. The whole of Hyrule's land, plus a ton of floating islands to explore, and even underground sections. And the dream of switching between the sky and the land seamlessly that could not be done in Skyward Sword will finally be fulfilled. The story seems to be more involved as well. Zelda falls during the adventure and we don't know if she will be safe or not. Our Master Sword melts completely and we have to restore its power. And we are meeting brand new characters that could be related to Hylia in some way. It looks very promising. We also see a lot of new weapon types that could play a major role in puzzles. This is the main question remaining, isn't it? Will dungeons return? Well, we already have many indications of dungeons returning, like the 7 tiers and the mural, probably being the Tears of the Kingdoms that we have to collect, for example. I have no doubt in my mind that dungeons will play a bigger role in this game again. I don't think they will fix everything I dislike about the new approach though. The linear dungeon structure with unlocking new items for each dungeon will probably not return in this title, and this is a real shame for me personally. But I do think they will fix the theming and the variety of the puzzles. Now that they had more time to focus on things like dungeons in the 5 years of development, I think as long as every dungeon is at least as expensive as Hyrule Castle in Breath of the Wild, but with more puzzles to lock progression, this could be amazing. Breath of the Wild's Hyrule Castle could be skipped completely with Rivali's Gale and other cheese. I don't want that. In my opinion, the dungeons can stay optional and be done in any order, but if you get into the dungeon, it should be a great puzzle focused segment. This is my biggest hope for the game, and I honestly still believe in it. I did peek into the artbook leak a little bit, but there will be no spoilers here. All I can say is that it made me more excited for this game. So tell me, what do you guys think? Will Tears of the Kingdom deliver in terms of dungeons? Do you even care about dungeons? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching again. I really appreciate it. I'm very new to making YouTube videos, and I hope if you like any of what I have to say, you can drop a subscription. Thanks again, and see you guys soon. Bye bye.